Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm here with my buddy, Brian Pitcher. We're going to be talking about some near-death experiences that he's been through in his life and how it's changed his life. And so your story is probably different, but some of you have been through some dramatic things in your life. And at the end of the day, nobody wants those things to happen, but sometimes there's a silver lining, like what comes out of that makes your life better. And if you haven't been through that, there's often a silver lining in these things, especially if you stay alive, that will shift your life. And so we're going to be going deep today with some things that have happened in Brian's life over the years and how he's become a stronger entrepreneur for it. So Brian, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to see you again, Mike.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting topic. Sometimes when I have people on the show, they're like, well, what have you not talked about before? And I'm like, I think we've talked about everything because I've done like 2,000 episodes. And, but I don't know that we talked about this. So we've kind of hit something here that I know I know it hits home for you because it's your life. But hey, before we jump into going deep on some of the challenges you've been through in your life, maybe just tell us your experience about how you got into real estate investing.
Well, I mean, like a lot of other people, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in college and realizing that, I mean, I knew I was never going to have a job for anybody. I always knew I was never going to work for anybody else. I just didn't know what I was going to do or what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to own a car dealership, to be honest, because I was flipping cars when I was a senior in high school and all through college, or when I started college, I was flipping cars. And then I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm like, maybe I should get in real estate. So I ended up taking the route of getting my real estate license. And I wanted to work with investors and I wanted to buy stuff myself. And then I got sucked into the help everybody else buy and whatnot. And, and that was going great until 2008.
Yeah.
For me. And then I had, at that point in time, I ended up having 7 doors, which I thought was a lot. Well, it was for me at the time, it was a lot. I ended up selling all of them except for my personal residence, short sold 2 of them. Through that process, I learned how to do short sales, and I saw that that's where the market was going. So I dove in when everyone was still like, I don't want to do them. I was like, well, I'll take them, give them me. And then I started doing my first direct bill marketing to the 60, 90-day late list that I had found from a small mastermind group that I went to, and started getting my first short sale listings.
And that was really more, was that because there's kind of the investor side of it and then there's like the agent side of it, right? And so
yeah, it was all agent focused.
Yeah.
It was all agent focused.
At that time.
I didn't have the...
Let's step back for a second. So when you started your business, because a lot of people, I've coached a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are trying to get started in real estate investing, and they often say, well, I'm going to get my license, which in some states now is required. But
Correct.
Certainly up until a few years ago, it wasn't really required anywhere. But that was just a common thought of like, well, I need to get my license and then I'm going to get into investing. And I would always be like, you don't need a license. I don't have my license. I actually do have my license now. I don't really talk about it a lot, but I do because it's not even required in Texas, but it's required for some other things that I do. So anyway, despite the fact for years and years and years, I've said, you don't need your license. Now I say a lot more of, it's generally not a bad idea to have your license in a lot of markets. But back then you thought that was, I presume you thought that was something that you probably needed to do to get started in investing. Is that accurate?
That's what I thought I needed to do. Yeah.
And then you just got pulled into the more traditional side, I guess.
Correct. And then I started, doing short sales, did a couple hundred of them. I ended up starting a short sale loss mitigation company and helped lots of agents through Keller Williams nationwide. I was anytimes like some of the very top short sale agents in the country, when they got stumped, I would be the one they called to figure out how to fix something, how to get something through.
Yeah.
If it was possible.
Yeah.
And then, but as a byproduct of that, we ended up being some screaming deals, especially with some of these subprime. I had a negotiator that told me, is like, look, If you can get me this number, I don't care who buys it, get me this number, and you got the deal done. And I'm like, I couldn't buy it myself because it's, you can represent yourself and buy your own short. So I found a buddy of mine. I said, dude, you need to buy this, and I'll help you do it, and I'll list the property when we're done. And I ended up starting my first partnership on doing a bunch of, well, not true partnership, agent investor partnership,
Sure.
where we ended up flipping quite a few properties through that process that
Yep.
were all short sales.
Yep. Yep. Kind of
And
wet your beak on the investor side a little
oh,
bit.
oh, for sure. I realized, okay, this is what I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
This is what I mean, what I really wanted was cash flow, but these big chunks, that was really sexy.
Yeah.
And that helped me get out of the hole I put myself in the 2008 crisis. So, everything was going pretty well until 2013, summer of 2013. It was actually spring of 2013. And that's when I ended up finding out that I had a pituitary adenoma, which was a brain tumor on your pituitary gland. And that's actually answered a lot of questions for me because I did cheerleading in college, and I did stunt team for the Utah Jazz. And in the middle of a Jazz game, Lakers Jazz, I blew my shoulder out catching a girl when she did a backflip and caught her by myself. My bicep didn't give, but the tendon did, and so I had to go have surgery on that and get that repaired. But then through that got me out of doing all my sports, and so apparently in 2013 I'd had about a decade of growth hormone injections, like I was using steroids, but it was all natural. My body was producing it. And it works great while you're working out. Once you stop working out, it goes straight to your joints. And so I had a lot of pain. It hurt to walk downstairs. Like, you know how you walk downstairs one foot in front of the other? Well, I had to go 1 foot at a time, like I had a heavy weight, like you're
Mm.
carrying something heavy. I couldn't jump. I couldn't run. I couldn't do any of that stuff because it just hurt too bad. And I didn't realize that there was something wrong. I thought it was just because I did gymnastics and cheerleading and wakeboarding and all the sports.
You thought you were just prematurely aged from all that
Oh yeah,
activity.
I thought I was paying
Yeah.
for my sports.
Did you even think at the time to like seek help? Like, did you try to? You just kind of assumed that this is what's wrong.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
assumed that that's what was wrong. And the way it happened is I went to my daughter or my sister's wedding, and her new brother-in-law said, "Hey," or her husband's brother. So brother, yeah. Anyway, he came up to my sister and said, "Your brother looks like he has a thing called acromegaly. You should go get checked out. He looks like my best friend." And that's the way you find out a lot, is because it changes the way you look. Gives you a bigger nose, your chin starts to go forward. I'll come back to that, forehead, ears. My hands
Mhm.
are extra large. It made me a Hulk when I was in college. Like, I was really strong. I was short and I was strong. But at the expense of it later. So all
Mhm.
my joints really, really hurt. And it was because they were swollen from the growth hormone. Once the brain tumor was removed and all the swelling went down, I looked different because everything was swollen. And that was a byproduct of the growth hormone. And I remember looking at the Wasatch Front Mountain Range because I'm in Salt Lake City. I was on the 8th floor of the Intermountain Medical Center looking at the mountain range as I went in for um, brain surgery, and I realized if something goes wrong, that's the last thing I will ever see. I'm like, I need to change my life. I need to prioritize some things because when I was at that point, nothing else mattered other than my family, my kids. I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week sometimes, and I wasn't seeing my kids were 3 and 6 at that time. And to be honest, I wasn't there. My wife was a single mom raising the kids because I would go to work before they got up, and I'd come home after they went to bed, and I would see them on the weekends.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's talk
I'm,
about
I'm
that a
sure
little bit because
there's,
I have regrets too. My son just turned 18, and we started our business when he was 1. I think my wife and I both have regrets of like how hard we had to work in the early days. But it was always, I think it's easy. I'm not here to cast stones because
oh, yeah, yeah,
I have
yeah.
regrets, right? I mean, I have regrets, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you go through this, you're either in this feast or famine stage of your life, and you, in many ways, convince yourself that you're doing it for your family, right? to be a provider, and your family needs a provider, but there's there's shades of gray there, right? It's like, okay,
Right.
how much is too far? And we probably all know people that are like, don't have a lot, but they're very present as parents, and they just have decided, I'm not willing to take it that far. There's some of us that probably went too far the other way and have regrets about it, right? And so I don't know that anybody, even anybody hearing this, can know what that right level is. Everybody has to figure that out. But what are like some of the lessons, I guess, you learned from that point in your life?
Well, I made a commitment at that point in time to no longer work nights and weekends, which is really hard to do as a real estate agent. So yeah, I committed to being home nights and weekends. It's hard to do that as a realtor, and but I was like, I don't really know my kids that well. I mean, I kept on thinking I'll have a lot more fun with them when they're older, when I can do things with them. Looking back, when they were 3 and 4 and running around and they look forward to seeing you, those were some of the funnest days.
Mhm.
And I missed a lot of them. I was there for some because luckily I had the brain tumor at that point where I didn't miss it completely. I got to spend more time there. And it made me realize that because I had this delayed gratification thing, you know what? I'll have fun later. I need to
Yeah.
do this now so that I can do more later. But there isn't always later. There are so many people that get to their 60s, they save their whole life, and now they want to go and do all the fun things, but their body won't let them. And so I made a commitment at that point in time to live more of my life as if I only had a couple years to live, because that may be the case. I didn't
Right.
know, but plan as if I was never going to die. Make sure that I had all, the finances and everything going so that like that I could take care of me if I never died. And so I had to think like that to make sure that I lived the fullest life I could while I built it. And so I went on more vacations. I went on, I started. That's when I ended up joining a mastermind where I met you, Mike, for the first time and got to be friends with you, and started learning how to be a real estate investor. And several years, 4 years later, I actually turned in my real estate license.
Mm.
The division of real estate was making it really hard for me to market. They kept on finding me for stupid stuff. Well, you know what? I don't need you. You can have the license. I don't want it. They never had someone terminate their license that way before because they didn't have a protocol for it. I'm like, you know what? I don't want it. I'm resigning it. I don't want to do this. And so then I went full time wholesaling, rehabbing, buying rentals, like all the things, paid off all my debt, put money aside, remodeled the house, started doing more things with my family, going on more trips. We went to Hawaii once or twice a year for every year for several years. Have created a lot of experiences, and that's really what I wanted was experiences. Um, that taught me some valuable lessons about life. What is life really about? It's not about having the biggest house or the biggest yacht or the although you think that it's going to make you feel better once you get there, but then once you get there, you're like, oh, that wasn't as much fun as I thought it would be. You get that big check, and then the next day you're normal again. You thought it would change your life, but it didn't. And it's just there's another hill to climb. If you get to one hill, you conquer the one mountain, and all of a sudden there's a bigger mountain that you gotta. That if you just choose to climb it, you can go, and you can never stop climbing your whole life. Or you can say, "Hey, I made it here. Now let me help other people get here.
Mm.
I want to enjoy this with my friends. I want to enjoy this with my family." So, I started to do those things, and then flipping houses, creating memories. And then in 2016, I ended up having a jaw surgery because they had to actually basically cut my whole mouth off and put it back together again with wires, where they cut the whole top section off, moved it forward 5 millimeters. They cut 5 millimeters out of my jaw and moved it back so that I could chew food again. Before that, I could not eat food without having a drink afterwards to push it down because I wasn't able to chew my food properly. I just couldn't do it.
All tied back to the
The
initial
brain
issue.
tumor.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, but through that process, I missed this part. I had my first brain tumor surgery I was starting to feel better, and I started to feel worse again, and the brain tumor was growing back. So I had to have a second surgery in October of that same year. One was May, the other one was October. And about October, November, I started feeling like crap, like worst I've ever felt in my life. Come to find out, my body was not making hormones anymore of any kind: thyroid, testosterone, growth hormone. My hair was falling out. I did not what was going on. They checked my levels, and everything was zero. And they were surprised that, I mean, really, the only way I was getting by was on Percocet, because it made me feel good to where I could continue
Oh,
doing those short sells I was doing. Because I just had that jaw surgery, still had a lot of pain, still couldn't eat anything hard. It was all soft foods. Um,
hmm,
so that has been a continual thing in my life. Is I will never have natural hormones again. I have to take all my hormones naturally, or with pills and shots and whatnot: growth hormone, testosterone, thyroid, and a couple of others. And one of the things that I did not know when I had my jaw surgery 3 years later was that my body doesn't regulate salt. And all I wanted to do after my jaw surgery was drink water, because I had blood in my mouth from the surgery.
hmm.
Because in order to get to everything, they had to cut all around my gums, cut all the skin around your gums to open it up, and all that had stitches all the way around, and
Jeez.
it was painful, and it was blood, and I guess we didn't know we were going to have a gory story, huh?
That's all right.
But all of a sudden, I wasn't acting right. My temperatures were off, and my wife just said, I don't know what's going on, but something's not right. I'm taking it to the ER. Come to find out, my salt levels got down to like 114, and when you get to 110, you can go into a coma. So I was really close, and they just kept me in the ICU. Because I had the whole jaw surgery I just had, and I couldn't eat, and they had to do a salt in an IV for several days to bring my salt levels back up. 'Cause I couldn't drink, I couldn't eat. I could drink, but I couldn't eat. And so that I just got to sit there and take pain meds for my jaw and do everything I could. So anyway, that was a big, big life changer. And that solidified my vow that I made to myself, which was create experiences. Spend more time. The time is what matters, not the money.
Not the
The money
stuff.
helps to create experiences. So it's like oxygen. You need it, but if you don't use it when you're making it to create those experiences, it's for naught.
Yeah.
And so, um, things were going well. Started buying rentals. Had a hiccup. Took some losses in 2019, when the market was starting to shift. COVID happened. Like, my whole single family real estate game it was just really hard to compete. My cost per deal went from 5 grand to 15 grand per
Hmm.
deal in Salt Lake. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try something else. I did some TV marketing, and that worked really well for a while. And that always worked. And then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go after what I really want, which was cash flow. So I started, and because I worked with Corey Peterson, learned the apartment game. But I just went after small multifamily in Pocatello, and ended up acquiring between northern Utah and southern Idaho, and acquiring 125 units in 2 years. And I knew that I had to go as fast as I could when they were printing all that money, because I knew it was all going to end up in stocks and real estate. And that was one of the best things I could ever do. But once the rates started going up at the end of 2022, I was like, okay, the game's over. Stop. I got to find something else, because this is going to be a while. And I stopped flipping houses, stopped buying houses, I stopped buying apartments. And then I ended up buying some storage units in Alabama, ended up acquiring 3 of them, had a partner that I brought on. Actually, I had 2 partners, but the partner I brought on that knew storage, that had been in storage for 8 years beforehand, come to find out, he was an actual psychopathic liar, because he didn't know anything about storage units. He's like, just buy it, it'll go up in value. Doesn't matter what you're buying. We didn't buy it right. We didn't have the right metrics. We didn't have the right financing. There was so many things about what we did wrong, but now we know how to do it right in the future, because we learned how to do it, how not to do it. Um,
That's a lot of
and then
lessons for real estate investors, is like what not to do, right? And it's
right,
interesting because so many people that are, on the newer side that are trying to get started, they're so afraid to make a mistake when the best lessons come from the mistakes. Like, you don't
so
want the
right,
mistakes to happen, but they're gonna happen. And so you might as well, the key thing is when you make a mistake, not to quit, to take that lesson and apply it towards the future you, right?
So then I was like, you know what? We got to go. My partner, Leif and I have been friends since college in 1996. So almost 30 years now. We've been friends. So um, we're like, okay, well, we got to keep the storage units, but we're not going to see the massive profits that we thought we were going to see from that. So we got to do something else as well. And so we went back to single family and we picked several markets in the Midwest and started marketing, started wholesaling, started flipping, started doing land. I did some, in Knoxville is one of the markets where I went to, and there was this new legislation called middle housing, and a lot of places in the country have it, where I could take a residential lot that was zoned a certain way and go and get it approved for a duplex or a fourplex. And they did quite a few of those. And at the beginning, I was thinking about we were going to build them, but then we just decided to flip them to a builder and made a lot of money wholesaling those, basically getting them approved, buying them, getting them approved, and then selling them to a builder. Did really well on that. Now we can go buy lots, or we can flip lots, wholesale lots to the same builder or other builders doing that. So we're still flipping houses, still flipping land, and we're doing it in multiple areas. And we're doing well.
And you're
What's that?
smarter from all you've been through, right? And some of it is business intelligence, some of it is personal intelligence of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do because of the experiences you've had health wise, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
There was in in 2022, I took the lessons of you never know when you're going to die. And there was a eightplex that I bought, and someone came and offered me $350,000 more than what I paid for it 6 months later. Like, well, I guess I have to sell it.
Yeah.
So I harvested that. I ended up making about 400 on that thing over the course of 9 months. And I told my wife, I said, all right, 10% of this, any vacation in the world you want to go on. She's like, what? Something she did not expect. And I said, he's like, you're not going to change your mind, are you? I said, no, anything you want.
Yeah.
And she took advantage of that. And we spent 40 grand and went to Europe for 3.5 weeks and did the whole Mediterranean thing. And man, it was so good seeing my kids. It kind of makes me a little emotional. Having them have history in person of the Renaissance, of the Roman Empire, of the Byzantine Empire in Turkey, and all the different history, being at the Vatican, all that kind of stuff we did. One of the best memories we've had in our that we've had with our kids growing up was that trip.
That's great.
And and then because we did that, I did another big deal where I ended up making $500,000 on that one. I wanted to keep it, but I couldn't get it financed right. So I was like, all right, I'll sell it. It was a mobile home park in outside in the suburb of Salt Lake that I sold. We went back to France for 10 days and did a European castle or a French side castle tour. That was awesome, seeing everything over there with the French Empire. I wouldn't take that back either. And so, but trying to do those kind of trips, especially while my kids are still in high school. My oldest daughter's a senior this year. My youngest daughter's a sophomore, and I've been here real quick. They're not going to be here. They're not going to be here. I mean, we can still take trips, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. Brian, you've had real health issues that kind of came at you out of nowhere without your control, right? And there's some people that have health issues that maybe they could have prevented. It could be a lifestyle issue, it could be alcohol, smoking, eating too much, whatever. But I've always found that, like in my experience, like there's always a lesson that comes out of that, right? And so I guess for other folks, I mean, you've learned some things along the way. I think some people can kind of surmise from this that are listening to this that might have helped them learn a lesson from this. But what do you think the key lessons are? I mean, it's you talked about some of them as it's experiences and not things, right? And enjoy your time while you're here. But maybe just share some other kind of lessons that folks that are listening to this should take away, that you could teach them because you've lived it.
Yeah. Well, one thing is The European and South American societies have it better than the Americans as far as enjoying your life. And it's not about how much money you make. It's not about the big business and the big houses. It's about family and friends and your experiences. They do it better than the US because we have this industrial mindset in the US of wealth, whereas they have it more about family. And so you would argue who lives the better life? Well, depends on what your priorities are. There's nothing wrong with having both if you use it properly. And it's not about having the most, it's about what you're doing with it. So create the memories, because most people think that, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do all this, or when I make this amount, then I'm going to do blank. But that goalpost always moves. It always moves, gets further and further away as inflation happens, and as you get older, your bills get larger with your kids and medical bills and sports and everything else, and so the goalpost keeps moving. So you just got to go with what you can. Do what you can and do it, as much as you can. And it's not even about what you do or how expensive it is. It's about what you do and the time. It could be just to get camping. Maybe you just what you do is you go camping. You don't have to go on vacation. You're just going camping. But it's forced time.
Mm-hmm.
It forces everyone to be around, especially if you can go to like Lake Powell, where your phones don't even work. All of those are some of the best times as well,
Yeah.
because everyone is present. Just in January. So I grew up Mormon. Haven't participated in that in like 15 years now, 14 years. And so, but I didn't grow up drinking or, anything else, smoking weed, anything like that. Well, as I got older, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm going to drink. I'm going to smoke some weed, it's fun. Everyone's doing it, or it's relaxing or whatnot. I ended up starting to become an alcoholic for the last couple of years. Things were stressful, wanted to relax, could justify it. Oh, in January of this year, I ended up over the holidays, I decided to drink a ton of water and get healthy. I had a stomach ulcer, and so I wanted to stop soda, just drink water. I ended up depleting all of my salt levels down, and I ended up having a grand mal seizure on January 3rd. And one of my best friends had to give me CPR. The ambulance had to come to my house and pick me up and take me to the hospital. I ended up being there for 6 days, and 3 of those days I was in a coma. And it was because my salt levels got so low that I had the grand mal seizure. And it was because I was drinking just water and I wasn't getting the salt in. Come to find out, I can't drink just water. I have to have something with sodium in it, whether that's a diet pep or Pepsi Zero, or some hydrate, or some different electrolyte drinks. I got to kind of half water, half that. But out of that, my wife and I, our relationship's gotten really solid, and we started a business with each other. I was always trying to get her to do my real estate stuff. Well, she's like, well, if something happens to you, I don't want to just sit around and do nothing. I get a job, and I don't want to work at Walmart. So she loves crafting, and so we ended up starting the swag business, where we make stuff and sell it online. She sells stuff online for herself that she makes and sells on Etsy and other places. Her shop is pictureperfectdesign.com on Shopify. And then we have set up a swag company, pictureperfectpro.com, where we do swag for businesses. And all of that we set up so if something happens to me, she can run that. And that also creates opportunities for our kids as well. So they don't have to go get jobs, so they can work with us. And then when we want to go on vacation, we could all go together, and the boss doesn't say no. And so we're trying to do stuff more as a family like that. And that has been a lot of fun. And honestly, like, I always wanted her to do my business, and she would come, she'd participate, but she didn't feel like she was really needed. And
Wasn't her thing. Yeah.
it wasn't her thing. For me to go into her business, to where my marketing skills and her ability to make stuff, our relationship is phenomenal. Like, date nights at Home Depot, man, it's great.
That's funny. Well, Brian, I appreciate you sharing your story today. I think that, I'm at a age now where that hasn't happened to me, but things happen, and I think everybody has things that happen. My mom passed away a couple of years ago. We had Lindsay's aunt passed away unexpectedly a year and a half ago. Just like things start to happen in your life. and it forces you to say, what is this all for? Or what does this mean? Or there's a lesson there, right?
Right.
I think the smartest people learn from your mistakes and my mistakes and other people around. And that's one of the powers of a mastermind is you get to learn from other people's mistakes and they openly share them. Well, I take that back. Most masterminds don't share the mistakes because they thump their chest and they talk about how awesome stuff is all the time. Investor Fuel is different in that regard, where people are usually kind of floored, like how open and vulnerable people are, because that's where the lessons come, right? So, but I do hope that people listening today heard your story and it resonated with them somehow, as to not let life pass you by for, for banking on the future that may or may not come.
And I will say that from that last one, I decided that I'm sober. I'll never have alcohol, weed, anything like that ever again. And I think better. I'm more present. I'm not escaping. And I think that if anybody got anything out of this, that if you could just get rid of that, get rid of the alcohol, get rid of the weed, get rid of whatever your vice is to escape, so you can be present, and you'll sleep better. Your relationships will be better. You'll think better. You'll be more motivated. It's just the best thing you could do.
Thanks for sharing your story, Brian. If folks wanted to connect with you, where can they go?
Let's see. Instagram, I got Pitcher Group and the real Brian Pitcher. Facebook is Pitcher Group. Yeah, just reach out and have a conversation. 801-891-6604. It's my cell.
Awesome, buddy. Well, we'll put some links down below in the show notes. So thanks for joining us today.
Okay. Hey, thanks. Good chatting with you again, Mike.
Yeah, good to see you. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully this is a little bit of a different, I recorded 2 podcasts today. The other one we talked about creative acquisitions, very different type shows, right? And so there's lots of lessons to learn here, but I think the best lessons come from life experiences. And truthfully, if you're listening, the best lessons come from other people, because it allows you to hopefully not make those same mistakes, or learn from things that you probably know to be true, but the bad part hasn't happened yet. And maybe it happens to somebody else instead of you. And you can avoid that by just paying attention, right? So, but appreciate you guys so much for joining us today. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.